Hello, friends, and welcome to a Hasty Podcast. You're listening to a Hasty Podcast. I'm your hungry hippo, Weston Hasty. Nailed it. Still rocking the the what is it? Like the random titles? Sure, that's what we're doing. My title is as hungry hippo. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the podcast. If it's not already clear that I have no idea what I'm doing ever, you should know that I have no idea what I'm doing ever. I realize now, for anyone watching the YouTube video version of the podcast, I'm literally quickly putting on some music for me to listen to. You might hear me. Yeah, that's so much better already. Just having the headphones on. If you ever see me in the I couldn't think of the word see. If you ever see me with headphones on during the podcast, wearing the headphones, I assure you, I am not doing anything remotely technical with them. I'm not like listening back to the podcast or whatever, my audio in my head. I'm not doing any of that crap. I'm not doing any of that while I'm doing this. No, in fact, what I'm always doing is listening to some kind of music. And I like to listen to, like, I accidentally just turned on something with lyrics in it. I like to find something that doesn't have lyrics. And it's always something soothing. So, like, for example, the thing that I'm going to look up right now is electric jazz. I think there is an electric jazz There's an electric jazz station. Beautiful. On my YouTube Music. I use YouTube Music. Some people use Spotify. Some people still use Pandora. God, Pandora. I used to seriously advocate. I used to quite seriously advocate for Pandora back in the day. I remember, when did I discover Pandora? 2010? Sounds maybe about right. Maybe 2009 or 10, I think, is when I discovered Pandora. They used to have this, like, mission statement. Mission ideology? I don't know. They used to have this ideology about their company or something like that. This idea that in all of us, we have this, like, how did they word it? The Music Genome Project. That's what it was. They used to stand by, I don't know if they still do or not. I haven't been on Pandora in a long time. The Music Genome Project. Or something like that. Where the idea is that inherent in all of us is a series of preferences for our music. And Pandora is like sort of mission. If you've ever used Pandora, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me kind of explain a little bit. Pandora is a music streaming service, like a Spotify or something like that, right? Except instead of like choosing specifically what songs you want to listen to, you create your own personalized station, and you can start with a base station based on any artist or any song or anything that you already know. So, like, let's say I really like. I don't know why, but the first thing that comes to my mind, Matchbox 20. Let's say you're a big fan of Matchbox 20. So you'd go to Pandora, and you just create a station, and they'd ask you, like, how you'd want to create your station. You'd say Matchbox 20. They wouldn't just play Matchbox 20 songs. In fact, it wasn't quite unusual for them to not even play a Matchbox 20 song as the first song for your station. And the entire premise was that they would try to feed you songs based on your preferences. They would try to feed you songs that are similar to what you've said you've liked. So if I say I like Matchbox 20, according to Pandora's like database, they'd be like, okay, Matchbox 20, male vocal leads. They're like, I don't know what they're considered, if they're like pop rock or I don't know what genre they belong to. I'm not a huge music nerd, but they would take by genre, by like male lead, female lead. They would go into specific songs by Matchbox 20 and see if there's any similarities in those songs, with like tempo, pacing, all kinds of data. I don't know what data exactly. It's been a hot minute since I looked at this, but they used to go by all kinds of data, and they would feed you similar songs. And what you would do, what they wanted you to do, was that when you got a song, you would like it or dislike it, thumb it up, thumb it down, and it would cater the songs that it would feed you based on your preferences. So you weren't necessarily creating playlists of songs that you knew you liked to listen back to, but rather they would send you songs for you to discover that you liked. And I loved that about Pandora back in the day, when I was in high school in 2009 and 10. I love that concept because I'm not a big fan, in fact, of creating playlists. I say I'm not a big fan of it. I just mean that I don't like to make... It takes a lot of time. I can never think of all the songs that I really like, so my playlists end up small because I like blank on what I'm like. What do I like? What do I like? Things don't just jump out at me musically like for some people it might. So what I really liked about Pandora was that it would give me new music that I'd never heard before but loved. And I would discover new songs that way. And I loved using Pandora for basically that purpose for a long, long time. Years and years ago. And it used to not be so bad. Back when I started, it was 40. I think you got 40 free hours a month. You could listen to Pandora for 40 hours on one account. And then they'd lock you out. And they would occasionally play an ad while you were listening. And the entire premise of that was that they were trying to sell you on their like premium account, which you could do unlimited listening, unlimited skips, no ads, that kind of thing. That was the other thing too. You could only skip so many songs before you ran out of skips. I think that was per day, not per month. But the 40 hours thing was per month. Naturally, there was nothing stopping you from creating like a second Pandora account with just a second email you might have and just going to a different account. It's annoying, but there's nothing stopping you from that. That is not a thing anymore by any stretch of the imagination. The only reason I know a little bit about what Pandora is up to now is because we use it at work to listen to music. And yeah, you can listen to music as much as you want, but the ads are so much more frequent than they used to be years and years ago. You get so many more ads now. And I feel like it doesn't do a very great job of delivering discoverability or anything like that anymore. But then again, at work, we also don't thumb up and thumb down things very often. It's just playing in the background. We're usually working. We're not like actively thumbing up, thumbing down our music. So that's a huge part of it as well. I'm not sure how effective they are anymore. All I do know is that no one really talks about Pandora anymore. This is not at all what I thought this podcast was going to be about, but I guess we're talking about music. This is not at all what I sat down to record about today, but I guess we're going to talk about music, so that's what we're doing. No one talks about Pandora anymore, and I don't know if it's because the ads are too bad, or if the service isn't good enough. I don't know if it's because you can't really create your own playlists like you can on other sites. Like Spotify's exploded. I don't use Spotify, all right? I don't really know anything about Spotify other than my podcast is available on it. My podcast, look for a Hasty Podcast on Spotify if you're listening or watching this somewhere else. But that's about the extent of my knowledge. I know it's for music primarily. People primarily use Spotify for music, but it's got other audio content on it as well. But it really exploded in popularity some years ago, apparently. And I kind of missed that wave because years ago, I think when it was exploding, I was still kind of on the Pandora train. I was still kind of like doing that. Although I didn't listen to music quite as often or as much maybe as other people. I enjoy music. I'm not a music hater. I enjoy music, but I'm not someone who has to like constantly be jamming, I guess. Like some kind of white noise in the background I always do prefer, but sometimes that white noise can be as simple as maybe I have a video on in the background or a website that I used to use quite frequently. I don't so much anymore. Funny how your tastes change. I used to use this website called Rainy Mood. I think it was a .com, rainymood.com, and it just plays rain, kind of like rain effects in the background. You can dial in like how much thunder you want to appear during the rain, and like there are different versions where you can have birds chirping, and it's quite nice. I think the website's still around. I enjoy it a lot if you're someone who really enjoys the sound of rain like I do. And it actually evolved where I would play rainymood.com and Pandora music at the same time, so that no matter what music you're listening to, you get a rainy vibe added to it to enrich your audio experience. And now that I'm saying that out loud, I haven't done that in so long, like a session of just turn on Rainy Mood and just listen to music and just vibe with the universe for a little while. God, it's been a while since I've just vibed with the universe to the sound of rain. But where was I going with all that? I don't remember. I don't really use Spotify very much. All I know is that it exploded in popularity, and I think at about the same time that Spotify was exploding, Pandora was disappearing. I remember that there used to be, like, I think there were commercials or ads or something for, like, phones that came preloaded with Pandora, like smartphones when they were popping off, and apps were kind of a new concept to the public. Like that you have apps on a phone, that the idea of an app was new at one point in time. I know that sounds wild now, but the idea of an app was new. And I remember like, oh, you could get this or that smartphone. It would come preloaded with probably a number of things, but like Pandora would be one of them. Or when cars were getting smarter and you could listen to like like satellite radio. So you might have like Sirius FM, Sirius FM. Something FM, you know what I'm talking about probably, or like cars that came with a data plan or Wi-Fi, or I don't know how it works. Honestly, I've got an old school car, but like you could listen to Pandora from your car, right? You didn't have to plug anything in, that kind of thing. Like when cars were getting a little bit smarter, So I remember ads about Pandora in your car. Oh my God, preloaded. It used to be this huge thing, I feel like. Pandora was really making moves, and I swear I do not hear about Pandora anymore. I don't see ads for it. No one talks about Pandora. The only way my life Venn diagram intersects with Pandora is specifically through work, because we use it at work, because it is free and you just let it go. We don't have to make a playlist or whatever. Honestly, we probably should look into something else besides Pandora, because well, depends on the ad situation. We need to research what music streaming services we can use that are at least ad light, because no one's going to pay for a service to listen to at work. I pay for a service, and we'll get into that in a little bit, since I'm apparently talking about music today. I used to use Amazon Music quite a bit. When I started like tapering off and moving away from Pandora, I started using Amazon Music quite a bit, because I do have an Amazon Prime subscription membership, whatever they call it. I think it's a subscription. I do have that, and I used to use it for school quite a bit, to have stuff delivered, my school supplies delivered, and you could get a discount on Amazon Prime once upon a time. Well, you probably still can. Mine's expired, mine's run up, but you could get a discounted rate on your Amazon subscription if you were a student, that kind of thing. And it always turned out to be like worth it in the long run, because you'd save on the shipping, the time, and that kind of stuff. And it came with nice perks. You could watch videos for free. You could listen to music for free. Not like everything on Amazon, obviously, but there was a selection of this stuff. And I was kind of getting into that and trying to figure out like what I liked. Kind of like when I was first starting to get into Netflix. When I got my own Netflix account and was into doing that, it's like I have my own Amazon Prime. I can watch movies and listen to music there, and I've got my own Netflix account, that kind of thing. When I was becoming an adult, right, and like taking charge of my own entertainment needs, I guess, because I'm someone who moved away from TV quite early, I guess, maybe. I don't know. When we talk about how like mainstream cable network television, blah blah blah, is like dying to the internet streaming service, whether it is something like Netflix, or it is an online streaming service version of what you used to get from TV, like an HBO Max or Disney Plus or something like that. I'm digressing a little bit into movies, though, but the point is I used to listen to music on Amazon. But what I didn't like about Amazon is it didn't have the discoverability. I think the exploration, not discoverability, but the exploration that Amazon had, right? It was very much like look up a song or a playlist or an album or whatever. I don't really remember. I didn't spend a ton of time on Amazon and Amazon Music. Between the two, I still kind of preferred Pandora, but I never got to the point where I wanted to pay for Pandora Prime. And Amazon, I had Amazon, or Pandora Plus, whatever it's called. And at Amazon, I already had Amazon Prime because of other reasons. So music, ad-free music listening there. So it was something that I kind of struggled with. It's like, man, I really hate ads. I will pay extra money to remove ads from my life. I will do it. I just couldn't justify doing it with Pandora at the time, because I already had an alternative music streaming service that I could listen to music from, and that was Amazon. So that's why I was trying to get myself into Amazon. It's like, it's already free. Let's see if I can just enjoy this. And then eventually, my timeline on like how these things came to be is a little blurry, but eventually YouTube Red came along, now known as YouTube Premium. What's it even called? YouTube Premium? It was YouTube Red when they launched it. That came along, and that was a thing for a while that I was quite dubious of, about what that would do to the sort of ecosystem of YouTube, specifically as a video sharing platform. But what I came to enjoy the most is that I did get suckered. I got suckered into YouTube Premium's, YouTube Red at the time. YouTube Red's 3-month trial for like 99 cents or whatever it was. It's like pay $1, you get 3 months of YouTube Red, and then after that it goes to whatever rate it was at the time. I don't think they've increased. I think it's $9.99 a month. I don't even know what I pay YouTube Red. YouTube Premium now. I don't even know what I pay them a month now. I just pay them. They could be siphoning hundreds of dollars from me. I wouldn't even know. I think it's $9.99. I don't remember what. I will say, I think my account, because I had it back in Red, I got locked into a certain price for a while. And I still might be. Like I say, I don't even know what I'm paying right now. I got locked into a price because when they changed to premium, some stuff changed. They started introducing YouTube TV. A bunch of packages changed from when I first got Red, and prices changed for sure. But I got locked into a price. I got grandfathered in. I don't remember what the details of that are. I just keep paying my monthly thing until one day maybe I'll look at a bank statement and get outraged if I'm paying too much. Point being, I got suckered into doing the trial for YouTube Red, and in those 3 months, I fell absolutely in love with the fact that I could watch as many YouTube videos as I want without watching a single ad. I fell absolutely in love with that. I know some people just say ad blocker. Some people will just say ad blocker. I've never used an ad blocker. I can't speak to it. I fundamentally, or maybe not fundamentally, but like ideologically, right, don't like the idea of ad blocker, because I do like the idea that creators that create, or artists that create free entertainment on YouTube should be compensated for their art in some way. And if I'm not paying them directly, ads are basically the only way they can be compensated for that. So ideologically speaking, I've never gone after doing ad blocker. That, as well as I'm too lazy to learn how to install it or whatever. So like there was kind of two factors. The fact that I'm lazy made it easier to stick by my morals when it came to like I want to support artists. But I'm not like loaded with cash to be like joining every single artist that I enjoy their Patreon or something, right? Because that adds up like crazy. But then I just accepted the ads. But once I got YouTube Red and I wasn't watching ads, and those creators are being supported by some portion of my YouTube Red, now YouTube Premium subscription, I feel much better. I feel much better about going ad-free since I'm paying the $10 a month or whatever for it. But what I didn't know at the time, when I got suckered into the YouTube Red trial, what I didn't know I would love is YouTube Music. And I don't know the details of how it works now. I don't know if there's any limited use of YouTube Music that you can check out now without having a YouTube Premium membership. I know at the time when I got YouTube Red, you could not like do anything with the YouTube Music app. You had to sign into your YouTube account. If you didn't have Red, you couldn't really use the app. I don't know if that's changed or not because I'm still, I'm still subscribed or whatever. And I got the app. I realized that you can. I realize now. I realized a while ago, but I didn't realize then. You can listen to YouTube Music on your browser, not through YouTube. You go to like music.youtube.com, and that brings you to YouTube Music. I learned that's been a godsend for me, listening to music through my browser instead of like through my phone, and I've really enjoyed that quite a bit as well. I'm listening to it right now. This is why we started talking about this, because I'm listening to an electric jazz station, and this is a huge part of why I fell in love with YouTube Music. So the key here is station. It was bringing back, and I could do this through the app, I could do this through the browser. It was bringing back my love for exploration and discoverability of music that I used to enjoy from Pandora, but with the added benefit that now I can also, if I wanted to, look up specific songs and play them. I can look up specific albums and play them. I can look up anything, basically, as long as it exists on YouTube's sort of platform and or network. I don't even know at this point how nebulous YouTube Music's library has become, especially since, Google owns YouTube. So really everything that you can get from Google, like Google Play Music, for example, basically, to my knowledge, exists also on YouTube Music. If I'm wrong about that, I can't imagine that it'll be very long before that is true, if that's not already true. I don't really follow the details of that, but like I say, there's a huge library out there. And I can look up specific stuff. I can create my own playlists if I want. I can find other people's public playlists and listen to those, which I do on occasion when I can't find a station, a YouTube-generated station of a certain vibe or genre or time period. If I can't find a YouTube station that represents that, there's probably a playlist someone's created for that very thing. I've listened to a number of my sort of like classic late 90s, early 2000s. That's kind of like my music vibe a lot of the time, is like late 90s, early 2000s, either pop, alternative, pop or alternative, that kind of thing. Think like early 2000s emo music, which I love that whenever there's some sort of how emo are you contest on some social media, if it's on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, and it'd be like a list of songs or music playing. It's like, if you know this many songs, you're definitely emo. And it's like, well, I know all of them, so according to your scale, I'm super emo. But also, I lived through that time period, and all these songs were quite accessible on the radio. We're not really going out of our way to be emo. But point being, I fell in love with YouTube Music. And again, I'm not someone who uses Spotify. It apparently is amazing because everyone and their grandma uses it. Apparently, I don't. Because no one really talks about YouTube Music. But when people do talk about YouTube Music, when people have used it, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it. I think people that use YouTube Music love it. But because it is locked behind a YouTube premium paywall, I think it just doesn't have as many people using it as something like Spotify, which you can pay for a premium membership for, but also you can use for free. And I suppose it has ads in it. I don't know how bad they are, like in terms of frequency, but I love it. I love that I've discovered YouTube Music. I listen to it all the time. And that circles us all the way back around to the beginning of this podcast, where I was talking about, if you ever see me putting on a pair of headphones during the podcast, I'm not doing anything technical. There is nothing fancy happening here in terms of audio equipment. I'm not monitoring anything. I just can't talk out loud while recording something without my ears having some kind of sound. I come from a place where I stream a lot of games and I have earbuds in and I can hear the gameplay and that kind of thing. So I'm constantly like getting white noise into my ears when I record and create stuff. So when I do the podcast, if I don't have these headphones on and I'm not listening to something, I just feel claustrophobic, suffocated in this room. Like, there's too much of an echo in here, which I apologize for anyone who's like a real big audio nerd and maybe can hear the room in my recordings. I do not have panels. I don't have soundproofing in this room. It's a bit cluttered. You can't really tell from if you're watching this on YouTube, you can't really tell from the one wall that you're looking at. I have my green screen that keeps anything from bouncing off of the wall that's behind that. And I do have a closet over there that's open, so my clothes are taking in some of the sound from that. But that wall over there, I know if you're listening to this on audio, you can't see, but just imagine I'm pointing to a random wall in my room. That wall over there is completely bare. There's not a single thing on it. And the wall opposite of it has those 3 hats, if you're watching on video, those 3 hats hanging from it. And then down the way, there's a shirt and a bag hanging from it on these hooks. So pretty bare, just not completely bare, but pretty bare. Those are the 2 walls that are probably the most responsible for any echo in this room, as well as probably the ceiling and floor. My floor used to have carpet. This is such a side tangent from music, but my floor used to have carpet. And then it had water damage, and my landlord was supposed to replace the carpet, and instead they replaced the carpet, but just not with more carpet. They replaced it with, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like that fake wood, not tile, not linoleum. What's the word I'm looking for? You know, fake wood. They replaced it with that fake wood stuff. The word I think is completely evading me. And that was annoying because we spent, I think, 2 days drying my previous carpet to be reused, only to not be reused. Anyway, that's another story for another day. I'm very upset about that. I'm still upset about that. Nothing came of it. It was awful because I had to move everything. I had to move out of my apartment, but like I had nowhere to go. So we just shoved everything into my living space where there wasn't water damage. Everything in this entire apartment had to be in one room for 3 days while we dried out a carpet that we didn't use and then replaced the floor. Anyway, but needless to say, the floor, since it's not carpet anymore, doesn't really suck in any sound. So my two walls, the ceiling, floor. Probably not good for echo in this room. Probably not great. Why am I talking about this? I've already completely forgotten why I'm talking about this. Oh yeah, I was just talking about how I'm not like big into sound design. I'm not a big audio nerd, but I do enjoy listening to music. There was a time at one point where I was going to start trying to create like playlists, and I thought about using YouTube music for this, because even if you don't have YouTube music, you can look up a public playlist just on YouTube. So something that I wanted to do and never did is make my own public playlists and sort of curate them. Since I'm someone who has a YouTube, I have a few YouTube channels, but I have a YouTube channel, I run a Discord, I have this vlog, and I mentioned it in a vlog. I have this running vlog where in an episode I mentioned something about some of the music that I listen to while I run and jog or whatever. And I mentioned that, maybe it'd be a fun idea to create a playlist that I can make public for everybody to listen to, and we can like enjoy the same music together. Or like, what's Weston into listening to? Maybe I will find something that Weston listens to that I would like as well. That kind of thing, right? So I wanted to share that and create these sort of curated playlists of like what I consider to be some of the best music. Probably in different genres, maybe one that's like a smash up of a bunch of stuff, just my favorites. And I thought about doing that, creating these like playlists of say 100 songs in one playlist, and I would theme it in some way and make that publicly available. And it would probably, as a playlist, probably show up in like YouTube Music. And I thought that'd be a fun thing to do and show up in playlists there. So if you're someone who uses YouTube Music or even uses the YouTube platform just for your music, if that sounds like something that would interest you, I would be quite curious to know if you're interested in something like that. I've thought about it and, sharing those playlists somehow on YouTube and my Discord, that kind of thing, to see what people thought of it. And that could be something that I create a new playlist. Like, I'm not really adding any additional content to the music itself. I would just be curating a playlist. Does that sound like something that would interest anybody? Probably not. I don't know how much time it would take me to do. It shouldn't take that long, but I'm someone, again, who just, off the top of my head, can't just start listing songs I would put in any one given playlist. But I'm someone who has listened to and heard so many songs throughout the years, because I've been through so many phases of different genres of music that I have tried to listen to, including foreign music as well, and whatever genres they belong to. I don't even know what genres they belong to. I definitely had a J-pop, K-pop phase before K-pop was cool, before Twitter was overtaken by the BTS stans. You know what I'm talking about. From like, 3 years ago, back when BTS exploded, everyone's like, oh, K-pop? What is this? Back before Gangnam Style hit its billion views on YouTube, I had my K-pop phase for sure. Anyway, don't know why I'm going off on a K-pop. Anytime I can like flex my hipster cred to be like, I was into this thing before it got really cool with a large group of people. Anytime I can flex my hipster cred, I guess I just take that opportunity. But I've heard a lot of music, basically, and I think it would be really fun to create some playlists that have some old standby favorites that you probably have heard of, but maybe also mix in to that playlist some eclectic, off-the-wall, obscure maybe songs that you haven't heard of. Maybe, as long as I can make it available, like as long as it is available on YouTube to turn into a playlist, because that's what I would probably use is YouTube. I'd make a YouTube playlist and make that publicly available somehow. So that sounds like something that like fascinates you. Leave me a comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're listening to this podcast somewhere else, then you could also go to the YouTube and leave me a comment down below as well, or you can tweet at me at Weston Hasty, or using the hashtag Hasty Podcast. That is hashtag Hasty Podcast, not hashtag Hasty Podcast, just to make that clear. Yeah, I think that's about it for today. It's not what I sat down to talk about, but we'll just say what I was going to talk about for another episode. Since we're talking about music, what kind of music do you guys enjoy? What do you listen to? Do you run and listen to music? Do you listen to music when you're working, when you're playing? Is there a time when you're not listening to music? Specifically, where you go out of your way to not listen to music? Do you have meditation or something? Let me know. I would love to hear about it. Also, hit me up with any other comments or suggestions for future episodes, or just thoughts about previous episodes, that kind of thing, in all the same places: comment section, Twitter, etc. Follow me on all the things that I do. If you want to know what I do and how to follow me, just go to westonhasty.com. It's my website that doesn't really host, but it points you to all my projects of all the things that I do, my social medias, my YouTubes, my everything. Go to westonhasty.com to find out about all the other projects that I do and whether or not there are things that you are interested in. If you would like to support this podcast financially by throwing me $1 or so a month, then patreon.com/WestonHasty for occasional updates, behind the scenes, that kind of thing. It's pretty laid back, but I appreciate everything. And maybe it's very special podcast extras will be coming to the Patreon coming soonly? Soonly? More details about that to come as I become more comfortable becoming a podcaster, because God knows this has been a journey already where I keep changing my mind about how I want to do the podcast. So just bear with me. That's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please do all the things. And until next time, wash your hands. I'm out of here. Bye.